Yo, that puzzle and the introduction video were entirely made in Framer without any code. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. So if we just move over to the live website, which you can access via the link below, or I'm going to put in the tweet if I end up doing that. And so you can access this and you can play around with it and see how it functions. But as you can see, the pieces move around really smoothly by these arrows here, which disappear and reappear when you can click them. If we move away to the furthest state, which is actually 15 moves away, we can see this end screen that pops up, which isn't the solution, unfortunately, because it's a smaller version. And it's kind of infuriating, but also a little bit funny. If we click continue, we can keep going or restart, and we restart. So the inspiration for this was, of course, the original puzzle, which is bigger. And I did have the plan to do this. I had the plan to make the entire original puzzle, which was really an underestimation if I'm being honest, and I'll show you exactly why that is. So I set out to do this on Python, and so I went into Excalidraw and started planning out what I was going to do. Here you can see my plans, and I was using all these different colors because you actually have to use, even for each yellow piece here on the bottom, which is the same in the original, you have to use different colors because otherwise the animations don't work in Framer, which I'll get to in a bit. But anyway, let's move straight to the Python code, which I use to export images for each of the Gaika states and also export the list or array of edges. The edges, by that I mean the edges connecting states. So you don't really see them in the final product, of course, but they're there in theory, right? So if we go over to Illustrator, you'll see the states that I generated. And the way I connected them in this little pattern here, in this formation, I didn't have to figure this out on my own. I actually use a tool called Pinode, which you can find online, which I will show you over here. And if you put those edges into Pinode with a little bit of extra code and you click play over here, you'll see it generate all the different states and connect them in such a way that there's minimal crossover between the edges. So you'll see that the only crossover is actually over here in the 8 and the 9, and that's unavoidable. There's a bunch of maths to explain why that's unavoidable if you don't believe me. But yeah, it's unavoidable. So if we just move back into Illustrator, you can see I actually connected all of these states like this in a pattern sort of, and then what I did is I put that straight into Framer. I created a custom component for the board, and I actually overlaid all the variants of that board over this image and then deleted the image, got rid of it, didn't need that anymore. So if we move into Framer over here, you can actually see exactly that. So if we just maybe zoom out here, it does get a bit laggy when you zoom out because of the sheer number of states. It's actually crazy. But if we just compare, you can see it's very similar, starting with the primary state over here, which you can see is state number 0. And so if we just click into this, here is the working component. Now let's just zoom in and just see how it works right now. So it's actually pretty straightforward, but it's just verbose. There's a lot of states, so it took a lot of time. It was tedious, but straightforward. So here you can see all the different pieces are their own component. As you see on the left, you got blue, vertical, blue, horizontal, red, and yellow. And if you look at each interaction on the piece, you can see we've got right, up, left, and down. And they're just custom interactions that I created from the arrows inside the asset here once we go inside. So we can see that there's a different variant for each state of that piece, depending on whether you can move it up, down, left, or right, or combinations of those movements. And you can see here that the arrow itself as well is another asset here, which has a hover state, etc. And so if we go into the puzzle, it's really simple. You create a new state according to the Illustrator file, and then what you do is you put the pieces in the place that they need to go, and then you also go to each piece and you select the variant based on whether it can move up, down, left, or right, or a combination of those, as I said just before. And that's basically it. Then you've just got to link up the states together by using the custom interactions. And once you've done that, it's essentially finished. And then you just style it. And this is actually made entirely in Framer. Even these pieces themselves aren't images. They're just entirely made in Framer. If I go into the assets, you can see that there's all these different paths here. If we just zoom here. Yeah, if you zoom in, you can see that even the shadows disappear on Framer when you zoom in too far. But yeah, you can see it's entirely made in Framer, and I thought that was going to be really cool, and I'm really excited about the result. I think it looks really good, and I hope you guys think so too. But yeah, it's just something that I wanted to experiment with and figure out if I could do, if it was achievable. And I set out to do the original one. I didn't achieve that, but I did achieve a miniature version, which I think looks really neat. It's not solvable. Please don't get mad at me in the comments. But yeah, it's not solvable, but it is some good fun. And it's just really an experiment to see how far you can go in Framer without using any code. But yeah, thank you for watching this. Thank you for having a look if you did. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's fun and satisfying, or all of the above. And yeah, thanks for watching this video. I'm going to be coming out with more content soon on Framer and trying to push the limits, experiment, make new things that you haven't seen before, hopefully. But yeah, drop a like if you can, and subscribe or follow if you're on X. I feel like saying Twitter, but yeah, hopefully, You know what I'm talking about, X.com. And yeah, that's all for today.